Costerian Clicks and Bricks with Ken and Brian. My cell phone number, just to get that out of the way really quick, is 314-370-2871. Go ahead and put that right across the screen right here for us, editors. Today we're going to be talking about
online payments.
Online payments, accepting payments online. Probably, arguably, the most important part of your business.
You gotta get paid.
You gotta get paid. So a lot of people are worried about that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So, I do want to just jump back to last week really quick. Mm-hmm. David Rosenberg. Jesus, man, why don't I just... David Rubenstein. How to Lead is the book that the Nike story was in that I referenced last week.
Got it.
I know I told you I'd bring it back up last week, and I never got back around to it.
Be impeccable with your word. I love it.
So it's a great book, and I highly recommend the Audible version over reading it, because in the Audible version, you actually get to hear the interviews. And he interviews some amazing people, the CEO of Nike, Pepsi, both President Clinton and Bush together, Bush Jr., not Senior. So it's a really great book.
Awesome.
I very much, I'm right towards the end right now, but I'm enjoying it a lot. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I've only got about a 10-minute drive to work every day, so I don't get a whole lot of time to listen to my ebooks, but it's a really great book. So today we're going to talk about online payments, but before we start that, we're going to do
Between the Cubicles.
What are we talking about today, Brian?
We are talking about the fight.
Mike Tyson
and Roy Jones Jr., man. I mean, obviously, we got to talk a little bit about Nate Robinson.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, right? He just was not properly trained for that.
I said that from the very beginning. And as I came into work, I was like, man, they're just bashing this dude for doing something that 99% of the world refuses or does not do.
Yes.
And I feel like he deserves a little bit of credit. And then at the same time, it's like, man, you didn't come out with your A game, man. Like,
no, not at all. And for those of you that don't know already, me and my wife own a title boxing club in Missouri, and I'm an amateur fighter. I've got a 1-1 record. I had my first amateur fight actually right before the COVID lockdown, and Brian's been training, hopefully to do Golden Gloves in 2021 if they open it back up.
We'll see, man.
So boxing is a huge part of both of our lives. So seeing Tyson, I've got goosebumps right now.
I do too.
Just saying, seeing Tyson fight again, I've got goosebumps.
It's
right?
Awesome, man.
After Ali, man, he's my favorite boxer. I grew up with Tyson in the house, right, on HBO Saturday night.
Right, video game.
Yeah, it's Mike Tyson knockout, right, all those things. So to get that opportunity to watch that fight with my daughter, who's also, she's only 13, but she is training to be, she might go pro at some point. We don't know. But no pressure on her. But
maybe a little bit.
If she decides to, I support her. If she wants to be a painter, I don't really care what she wants to do, as long as she's happy. But she does train very hard. So boxing is part of our everyday life. And the Nate Robinson thing,
man, it looked really bad for it. And I don't know.
And Paul's getting way too much credit for this fight.
Yes.
Like he's a great he knocked him out. Well, no, the dude kept falling over like he was lunging. And Logan just got, I keep saying Logan. Is it Logan Paul or Jake Paul?
Jake Paul.
They're brothers, right? They're YouTube celebrities.
Exactly.
I don't want to take anything away from him, because he did execute very well in the ring. He handled a awkward situation.
He looked prepared.
Right? He was able to roll out of that and get that lead hook in on Nate to knock him out. But, Paul was obviously trained, and Nate obviously wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different ways you really go with it, right? You can say that he wasn't trained properly. You can say he didn't take his training properly. Because, I mean, a lot of training, I'm realizing now, is all mental. You have to have that mental strength to go through the gauntlet.
Well, it's every day, right? I know when I was preparing for my fight, and I did an amateur Golden Gloves, so it was pretty much, if you won your fight, you get to fight again the next day. Luckily for me, there's not a whole lot of heavyweights in the over 45 range. So I only had, I've had my first fight.
I won. Weight and get old.
And yes, gain weight and get old. That's going to happen anyway. So I only had, one fight, then I lost my second fight, but it was for the championship. So,
for the belt.
But we trained 2 hours a day every day for several months going up to that. after that, I had surgery and gained a whole bunch of weight. But that's beside the point. So if he trained fighting for 2 hours a day for 3 months before, he would not have lunged like that.
And then the other part of it makes me believe that, well, maybe he just didn't take it seriously.
I find it hard to believe that any athlete at his level would take anything seriously, right? I mean, he went in there to compete. He got paid. He get paid to do the job, right? And I think he robbed the audience.
He absolutely robbed the audience, and he completely boosted Jake Paul's confidence. Yeah. That guy.
So I could talk about Tyson fighting and the fights for the whole hour, easy.
Absolutely.
But today we're here to talk about payments. So how did you see the fight?
I saw the fight through. I streamed it.
Did you stream it during the live or after?
After the fight. So
you caught the highlights for absolutely free.
Yep.
I purchased the app called Fight on my Roku or Roku, I call it Roku, but I get yelled at a lot. They tell me it's Roku. And I had to say the process was miserable to get the app installed, to go to my computer and link it up and then enter my credit card. So the process it was well worth it, right? To get to see the fights, all 4 fights live. It was very entertaining for me. I know a lot of people have different opinions, but I really enjoyed all 4 matches for different reasons. But to see that, and Thriller app, which I'm on, I've not really adopted too much yet, was one of the major sponsors, and I actually found out about Thriller probably 6 months ago when the Tyson fight was released, right? And Thriller was behind it right from the get go, right? I don't know if they're going to take on TikTok or not yet, but
that's a tall order right there. We'll see.
Now. But now that I have the Fight app on my TV and I have my credit card in it and all that stuff, it's really easy for me to continue buying. But I really wish, if you're watching this, anybody from Fight, FITE, do a better job on letting me make payments, right? And the funny thing is that we're talking today about payments, and
yes,
I really struggled with that process. And I think it's the link between the TV and the computer that you had to do.
It's clunky sometimes for certain devices.
Yeah. So, talking about online payments, I say we just go to a question. Do we have any questions on?
Yeah, we have a lot of questions.
Okay.
A lot of questions here. The first question we have here is by Sandra, and Sandra says, "How do I make online payments secure?"
Oh, well, that's a wildly big question. So number one thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that you have an SSL on your website always, even if you're not taking payments. And Google made this change, I think, early in 19.
Let's talk about what an SSL is.
Right. So Google made the change in late 1819 where all sites have to be SSL'd. Anytime you're putting content into the browser, and an SSL is called Secure Socket Layer. And for you, it's pretty much when you type in HTTPS instead of HTTP://
right.
And that's a secure socket layer. What that's doing is it's encrypting the data from your computer to the server, right? Once it's on the server, it should go into the database and be encrypted. But when they call it on the wire, I think it's a stupid term, but that's what a lot of the high geeks will call it. As that data travels over the wire, it's encrypted. So it's harder to get caught by stuff called man-in-the-middle attacks and things like that. It's an extra layer. It's a handshake between you and the server.
It's a secure
handshake between you and the server, and then it allows the data to go from my computer to the server in an encrypted manner. Used to be 1024-bit encryption. Now we're primarily 4096-bit encryption, but 2084 is the minimum standard for. I'm way too geeky right now.
You're getting there. You're getting there. So I'm sitting there just I'm trying to pay attention so bad.
Yeah. So one, make sure that your website is SSL. Hosterian SSLs, 100% of our websites by default for absolutely free. Different hosting providers charge different, and talk to your IT professional about what level of SSL to give.
Yes.
So Hosterian provides a free SSL to all of our hosting clients, and different SSLs from all the different providers, and we have a whole bunch of them. We can sell you one from any of the providers that sell them, have different insurance policies on them. So if the investigation ends up happening somebody's credit card got stolen and it happens from
your site,
and it happened between the computer and the server.
If you have insurance,
if you have that SSL with insurance, then it's covered. It's probably the most unlikely attack. More likely they're going to get into your database and get that credit card number out of your database than when it's coming from your computer to the server. But it is possible, right? It's I think something similar to that's how they got Target, right? But it was inside their network, getting it from the terminals back to the database in the back. And I'm not really familiar with I know very little about the Target hack.
That's the first step, though, to making it secure.
First step is SSL your website. Second step, the easiest way to do it is to just use a third-party provider, PayPal, Stripe, any of those guys, Square. They take all of that for you. The bad part about those, and this is a business decision that each company is going to have to make. So say I use Square, for example. I don't have access to the credit cards. So if I'm running a large business that has a couple thousand customers or even a couple hundred clients, and I have their credit cards and I'm charging them recurringly every single month, fantastic, that's great. But all of your data is inside Square. You don't have access to credit cards. So
all your clients.
So Square is a great company, St. Louis based. Actually, let's move over to Stripe. I don't want to. I'm in St. Louis. Square's in St. Louis. McKelvey is a great guy. I've got to meet him a couple times, so I don't even want to go down this line of if they went away. So let's go to Stripe.
Reset button, okay? Right. Reset.
So if you're using Stripe to store your credit cards and bill your clients recurring, and say Stripe goes away for some reason, the government seizes them, or they went out of business, or they just made something. They decided that they're going to do some other kind of business, and they go away. Mm-hmm. You now have to contact each one of your clients and recapture their credit card, right? In my experience, anytime that I've had to do that on a large scale, 5 to 20% of the clients you never get back. Right? They're gone forever. Like, oh, I forgot I was charging that anyway. I don't want it anymore anyway. That kind of scenario. So that to me is the biggest drawback is control. You're gaining a lot of security. You're removing a lot of personal liability.
Right.
But you don't have as much control. So you're kind of with that provider. What we do a lot now, and I highly recommend this because most applications let you do it, is don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? We use an app for membership websites called Restrict Access Pro. And inside there, it has a bunch of gateways or payment processors already configured. And you can say, I want to use Stripe, PayPal, and Square. I don't know if Square's in that one or not. I want to use Stripe and PayPal.
And all those gateways are available.
Right. And then the end user, if you're using Stripe, the thing that I like Stripe a lot, like it's my default because it's really easy to use. It's simple to set up.
Integrates with a lot of stuff. Integrates
all kinds of stuff. But it appears to the end user as if you are the credit card processor. So it appears more...
I would call that professional.
More professional. More integrated, right? So it's really got your credit card number there. You type the credit card number and it looks like that website's doing the transaction. And it's a very clean process.
That also just reminded me too, I was working with a client today actually, integrating Stripe. Stripe also allows you to capture that information for future use. So you can either say,
does Stripe do that or does Paperform do that?
Oh, that's a good question.
I don't think it's Stripe doing it. I think
it was Paperform.
Right. So depending on what application you're using and integrating Stripe to,
I think it was Paperform.
If you're using Paperform, it has the option to capture it. If you're capturing credit cards, now you have to be PCI compliant.
Yes.
Right. So if you don't capture the card, you're just sending it straight to Stripe or sending it straight to PayPal, you don't have to be PCI compliant at any kind of certain level. I recommend getting a Security Matrix, is the firm that we use. And they scan our server to make sure that we're
safe,
using all best practices, right? But so if you're going to store them, you have to be compliant. You have to have those scans. You have to have those scans now, period. And you have a huge amount of liability on you, right? Because if those cards get hacked or stolen, or one of your employee decides to flip you the bird and walk out the door and sell your credit card numbers online,
you're liable.
As the business owner, the business is liable for all of that fraud, I think, right? So it's you have to have a really good business case to store the credit cards internally, right?
Absolutely.
So
I mean, you kind of hit the nail in the head in the very beginning of answering the question is that it really just depends on your business.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, when you, obviously to make it make your payment secure online, there's some obvious steps to make.
Yes.
Like your SSL.
Yep.
Right.
Choosing the right vendor.
Choosing the right vendor. Choosing the right third party that works for your business.
Right.
All those things.
Talk to your bank. Right. They'll tell you if you're going to store the credit cards. I would say authorize and your bank.
Yes.
Tie those two things together. Put them in your application and go.
Make it easy.
If you want to store the credit cards and do the batches. But then you got all kinds of stuff like batch transactions and independent transactions. It really depends on what you're doing. And
if you're going to have repeat, it's going to be like a reoccurring cost or
right.
a one-time transaction.
If you're over $10, the fees for Square or Stripe or any of those guys are so low. There's no monthly fee.
Right.
There's no minimum commitment. You can jump in the bed with those fellows really quickly with just a commercial bank account and get rock and rolling right away. So, I mean, you can literally start a website. I mean, we could get a website up, running, taking payments. If you had your banking account already, say you had your LLC and all that stuff, you had your bank account set up and you were selling just an ebook, right? We could have that up in a day, taking payments, rocking and rolling. So, there's nothing stopping you today from doing those payments, right? 20 years ago, we were figuring out how to take payments online for fantasy sports. And that was a nightmare because all the banks are like, well, that's gambling. We're like, no, it's not gambling. And it was a big to do, right? And then we found a merchant account. Heartland ended up taking us on, and we processed our own credit cards for a very long time. And that was microtransactions, right? $1 per trade kind of transactions a lot. Right. So it was important for us to hold the credit card. Because people didn't want to give their credit card every time for a $1 transaction.
So we want to store it there.
Store it there and say, hey, hit it again. And then on top of that, the fees, Stripe, I think is to some point, it's like 2.9% per transaction and 30 cents per transaction. So if you're doing a $1 transaction, you're not getting, 30 cents of it's gone right out of the top. So, but a $200 or $300 product like the one you're working on today, that fee's almost non-existent, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. So, so obviously follow the steps. There's stuff for you to do. Secure your website, get your SSL. And if anyone tells you not to do that, they are telling you a lie.
Yes,
because the news is telling people constantly, do not even do anything on a site that's not secure. It's all through all the social media, right? So you can find it on Facebook. They're talking about it. You're talking about it on basically any platform, really. It's not just Facebook.
Yes.
So that's the first step, right? And some things you don't want to do is just take credit card payments through an email.
Or chat.
Or through a chat or any kind of like social media platform. Do not do that.
Right. Absolutely.
That will get you caught up really bad. So part of being secure is not doing things that make it, that open yourself up and make yourself liable.
Right. And if you use a third-party service like Security Matrix to do your PCI scan, I don't know what PCI even stands for, but it's credit card security policies, right? Mm-hmm. If you pay, they'll give you all the rules, and then the other part of that is training, right? Yes. It's huge. So we had to do training every year for HIPAA here, which is the medical stuff, and then we also had to do PCI training once a year. And basically, it says if you ever write down a credit card number,
this is what you do.
You have to shred it when you're done, right? And then
dispose of it the proper way,
right? And then don't give it out to anybody over the phone and those kinds of things, right? So there's some very basic PCI training that you can do with your staff. A lot of you guys are just starting out, so it might be you and a buddy, or you and a wife, or you and your husband that are starting this business, and you don't have a big staff yet. But as you start hiring people on, they're going to have access to this data and access to your systems.
Right.
Train them, right? Because
absolutely. It's really easy to mess up HIPAA. It is really easy.
Yeah, it's easy. But today's talking about payments, so it's easy. I can't tell you how many times I've been in a business and looking through doing audits and things and finding employees putting credit card numbers in the company's trouble ticket system,
Oh
or
man, that's
in
bad.
their chat system back and forth. Those kinds of things, right? They think it's innocent, right? It's getting things done fast, but it's bad practice, and that's not bad employees. It's bad training. So
Yes. Well,
yeah.
there's a saying, right? There's no bad employees, there's just bad managers.
Oh yeah, that could be true. I think both can exist.
I do agree. I do agree.
Yeah. I've been both. I've been a bad manager and a bad employee. So I think there's lots of options in this world.
I mean, I feel like when I was a bad employee, it was because I had a bad manager. Because like,
no, I've been a shitty employee just because I was a shitty person when I was younger.
I love the candor. I love it.
Well, I mean, when you're younger, you take jobs that you don't want to do, right? And I don't do that anymore, and I highly discourage anybody doing work that they don't enjoy doing.
This day and age, it's so easy to find something you can get paid and enjoy to do. I mean,
even if you don't like totally enjoy it, but if you don't mind driving Uber, right? If you don't mind grocery shopping, you've got Instacart, right? So there's just plenty of stuff that you can do that you might enjoy. When I was a kid, there wasn't a whole lot of jobs, so bussing tables, washing dishes, cleaning Motel 6 rooms, right? I was a bad employee. I had shitty jobs. I was a shitty employee. Yeah. I liked cutting grass when I was younger, but
I hated it, man.
Yeah, I didn't mind that at all. So
I hope that answered your question. This also actually
or last step is just hire someone to do it for you. Like
that's another way. That way you can remove yourself from everything except for that's how we take payments.
So point a finger. and so, I don't know what happened. They did it for me.
You know, and this question actually brings up a topic. And I'm gonna see if I don't know if we have a question about it yet, but you know, I when I talk to people about making payments online, there's this like natural fear. And I don't know if that fear is coming from people just scared to do things online, or it's just fear just having the liability of how to manage all of the online how to manage information in a cyber world, right? I did quotations if you guys are listening to the podcast,
right?
So I'm not really sure. I mean that's a pretty
fear comes from a lot of places, right? And you hear I'm always amazed at the fear of taking online payments, and I think it's a misplaced fear, right? So I also find it crazy that some of the large company or medium-sized companies I talk to them about security, they don't seem to care, right? And I think that's because the only thing I can think of is so Target got hacked, Schnucks got hacked. I don't know if that's a nationwide brand or not. I know it's pretty big in the Midwest. I don't know if it's on the coast.
It's not on the coast,
right? But it's a large grocery store chain. They had a pretty significant hack. Equifax got hacked, right? One of the largest credit bureaus in the world got hacked. So I think what unfortunately, people assume that they've been hacked already.
Well, you should.
They assume that their data is already out there. And when you're talking about selling security services to some middle-sized firms, like, well, Equifax got hacked and nothing happened, but they're still in business, right?
Right.
When the fact is, most businesses, if they get hacked, are done. Right? I don't know the statistic off the top of my head. If we can find the statistic, throw it up here. But
most companies cannot take huge financial blows.
No, not at all.
That's
right?
the bottom line.
Well, I think this year a lot of companies have been exercised on that with COVID, on those huge financial blows, and we've really seen how
went down too.
Yeah, but I mean, we've seen a lot of tenacity out of business owners this year, right? And
Absolutely.
a lot of them have been shut down for several months and then came back open again. And reopening after a pandemic like that is like launching brand new again, but in a down economy. Whereas if you're opening your doors for new business 2 years ago, you would have a big crowd waiting at the front door. Whereas today, I don't know if I should go in there or not. But yeah, I mean, a lot of businesses won't come back from a significant hacking event, right? If you don't have cyber insurance and the wrong person files suit, right, and you got to go through all that. I don't know where I found this quote from, but I love it. Winning a lawsuit's like winning an earthquake. Right, just nobody wins. Right, it's a shitty situation for everybody. So
time, money, resources.
Yeah, you just don't want to go through it. Right, you can spend your time and energy on so other things in life. Yeah, so it is what it is. But yeah.
So Sandra, thank you for the question. Hopefully that answered it. Moving along to our next question here. This is by Austin, exactly what do I need in order to take payments online in the form of a website?
Okay, so the easiest way that I know how to do it to take a payment online with a website
Right.
is a basic WordPress website. Use Elementor for a nice fancy theme that you can use the free version. Um, and there's a bunch of other Elementor. I like Elementor just because I use it on hundreds of thousands of sites. And Paperform. To me, Paperform dot. I'm not sure what's at the
I don't
end.
remember what
If
it
it's
is
a
either.
.com or .io.
I think it's a .io.
But
gut.
Paperform to me, for a single product or even a handful of products, Paperform is just a very easy way to create and program out a form
I love Paperform.
and take payments. Right? It's just stupid simple. Right? For some of the gyms and yoga studios and stuff that we work with, we use Start Booking, and there's integration in there. So if they're selling a class, like, hey, $30 to show up and take this yoga class, Start Booking has that built in. And again, if you have a WordPress site with Elementor, you literally build your calendar inside Start Booking and what your classes are and how much you charge for it.
Right,
and you copy a little piece of code, just a little bitty short code, and you paste it in your WordPress Elementor short code element, and it pops up. Beautiful layout, all those things. Paperform's the same way. You hit the share link, get the embed code, embed that into your website, and it looks and feels like it's part of your website, and it takes the payment. It's all secure. You don't have to worry about anything. And literally you can set up, hundreds a day if you wanted to, right?
There's all kinds of things you can
so
set up.
fast. Fast, so easy, very secure. You can set Paperform up in 2 different ways. You can set it up to store the credit card, so I run it by hand later with my terminal if you don't have online yet, or you can set it up to go directly to Stripe, PayPal. I think there's a handful of different.
Yeah, there's a few different spots, and I don't remember all the spots it can integrate with. But it integrates with all the top third party online payments.
Right.
So also there's a few different ways you can go about it. That's one way. I also like that way as well. I love Paperform in general because there's just so much stuff you can do with it, and it integrates so nicely into WordPress that you can still make it.
We use the heck out of it, man.
You can use it in so many different ways.
Yes.
But you also mentioned another way, was Start Booking, right? So you can, with the whole appointment setting, you can use the plugin to make your payment right then and there. And then there's another way I just thought about and just lost my train of thought.
I have, while he's thinking that, I have also on my Calendarly, if you just want to book like a 1-hour brainstorming session with me, I think I charge $125 for that hour, but you can go to my Calendarly, book it. That payment goes straight through Calendarly. I don't have to think about it at all. And that appointment shows up on my calendar. It syncs to my Google Calendar. And it syncs right over to my Hosterian calendar. So it's everywhere that I need it to be. I'm informed about it, and the payments in my checking account.
That's what I was going to say. That helped me remember.
Yeah.
The member restrict access module.
Yes.
That's another way you take payments.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a bunch of different plugins that you can use on your website, especially if you have a WordPress website, where you can take payment on there securely. So it goes back to what we kind of said with answering the first question, was that it depends on your business. Right. There's no one size fits all with anything, and I don't know how we got to that in a society. Right. But there's more than one way to skin a cat, and
absolutely.
When it comes to taking payments, there's a ton of different ways to take payments. It really
I think there's
work the best for you.
There's a lot of gray, and it depends on which end. It's not a black and white answer, right? It's not this is how you do it, this is how you don't do it. Because for Hosterian, we've been in business for 20 years. We wrote our own back office and brought it to market. So for us, literally our payments we programmed it all in. There's no third party thing. And we just lost our previous payment gateway and had to reprogram everything to use authorize.net is who we ended up going to for gateway. But our back office, we had to rewrite all the API calls, which is a lot of programming. And it took 4 weeks of programming time to get that programming done. Because now we're talking about PHP, talking to a third party and back and forth stuff, really nerdy stuff or geeky stuff. Programmers like to be called geeks and not nerds. I'm not sure why.
I low-key feel like I'm becoming a geek.
It's okay.
I'm accepted. I'm completely embracing.
Yeah,
Because
it's
geeks
okay.
make money.
I mean, there's
Well, they
lots of
can. They
yeah.
can.
Jump and see, and then there's the whole other world that we haven't even talked about is crypto, right? And crypto payments, and crypto's popping off again, and I've got more than a couple bruises and scars from crypto in my life, but um, sites like BitPay are fantastic. So if you're doing micro transactions, very small transactions, a dollar or two, crypto doesn't charge any fees on that transfer. So, and BitPay is a great way to drop it in there. Now you're selling probably online digital kind of stuff if you're going down that path, or I don't know what else you might sell. I used to buy pizzas all the time with my bitcoins, but
I'm surprised that a lot of companies are accepting cryptocurrency.
well, with BitPay, I highly recommend it if you can. You can make a couple of different decisions, right? So if I'm accepting bitcoins, and I really only play with bitcoins. I have a couple ETH coins, and last night I just got some new ones actually. But what I do if I'm selling a service and I'm accepting crypto inside of BitPay, I have it say just store the coins, and every night I go in and I sell 90% of the crypto into cash because I want to make sure that I've got the cash for my products so that I can live in society, and I store 10% of them because you never know, right? Crypto Bitcoin's just hit over 17,000 a coin again the other day. They breached that, now it's 18,000, but it's another way to accept payments, and if you hedge your bets properly, you can have some assets in crypto that could potentially gain a huge amount of gains potentially.
There you go, Austin. You have options. You have options.
And if you want to talk about crypto, feel free to send me a text message 370-2871 area code 314. I'd love talking about crypto. I'm not as nearly as big into it at this point in my life as I was in 2016.
Gotcha.
Since I pretty much sold all my bitcoins and bought Tidal. Is what I did. So, but moving on. Next question.
Gotcha. All right. So hopefully answer your question. If you have more questions about that, message us on the text line. Our next question here is by Catherine. I have a website that needs to accept payments internationally. What is the best payment processor?
International payments, and I'm not wildly familiar with this, so I'm not. We're gonna touch on this and then move on because I don't have a whole lot of knowledge. I do know that if you go to Heartland as your merchant service, that they do international payments, because I know that we used to take them from Canada. Our largest clients at Hosterian are overseas, and I can tell you how we get some of those. The best way is a wire transfer, right? Because it goes right into the bank.
And that's pretty secure right there.
It's very, very secure, except you are giving your banking information to a third party, and that third party is potentially overseas.
Correct.
The other one is, and now both of these we're dealing with US dollars, right? We're telling the client, you convert your money into USD and send it to me.
Yeah.
The second way that we do that is through PayPal, and that's another one of our largest clients. PayPal is tough, man. It's a lot of big fees. A lot of big fees with PayPal. But if you do significant traffic through PayPal, one thing that I take wild advantage of is PayPal has a program called Working Capital. So if you're using PayPal, and so does Square, actually, both of these applications have a working capital program, Square and PayPal. So what they do is if you use them enough and you build up and they kind of know what your monthly transactions are after a year of working with them, you can take a loan out against your future earnings that are going to go to them. So it's fantastic. So then a client you take a loan, you get your money instantly, like
right away,
like wildly too fast probably. But you get the money really quickly. And then as your clients continue to pay you, they have different options like 10%, 20%, or 30% on that payback plan, depending on how much you borrow. So
that's pretty sweet.
Yeah. So you can help your business grow at the same time with your payment processor if you choose one of those guys. Square, I know
That's
Square
really cool.
and PayPal have it. So that's a tip for PayPal is they have, and Square, they have that thing. And they do international billing. I just did a pretty big deal with a guy in Pakistan, and it was a lot of trouble to get the funds transferred, and we used MoneyGram. Wildly inconvenient, so
Right.
hard to do. You ran to the store with me.
I'm not a big MoneyGram fan.
And
I've never been a big MoneyGram fan.
It was very clunky. I had to literally go to the store. Like, so I put my purchase in. I'm on their website. I buy all this stuff, right? This is a wholesale order to have new equipment manufactured with my name on it. And I had to go to CVS, the drugstore, and they had this little red phone sitting there, and I had to pick it up, and I called the person, and I told them what the transaction was. They gave me a transaction ID number, and then I went to the CVS person and gave my credit card to pay. It was a horrible process, right? So
absolutely.
But it turned it to, and I don't know what the Pakistani dollar is,
right.
But it converted real time over, and if I log into my MoneyGram account, I can see what that is. It was like.
Did you have to set up an account for that? They just gave you one when you started.
I set up MoneyGram account first, and then I had to go do that. So, if you're an American company, foreign transactions coming to U.S. to me feels a lot easier than if you're sending U.S. dollars outside of the country. And I've had that problem a few times when I'm buying products from somebody that's not in the U.S.
How do you get the money to them?
Yeah. So, and if you are buying stuff on a website and they're not in the U.S. and it's like, hey, you have to transfer the funds wire, make sure you know who you're talking to, get references, look at their Facebook profile, their Instagram profile, see if they're dealing with other people in the same industry as you. Really go slow. And the harder they push to get the money, the bigger chances of it being a scam are. I've had a lot of really great luck, and I've also been robbed a few times. But without any risk, there's no reward. So we move forward.
Beast, though, man. It's part of it. You win some, you lose some.
So I would say the easy ones, Stripe or PayPal. The hard one, MoneyGram. Yeah.
All right. Who is that?
And nothing beats a good old fashioned check in the mail.
Right.
It's slow, it's cumbersome, but there's zero fees, and you get all the money in your bank whenever you deposit it.
So. And there's something about opening a check in the mail.
Yeah, a lot of people hate it, right?
I like getting a check in the mail.
it's part of our daily process here at Hosterian. Like, it's generally done by 10:30 a.m. We start at 9 a.m. our business hours. But generally by 10:30 a.m. the mail's ran. We got all the checks in. We've opened them all up. We've scanned. We've got a scanner here. So it's the biggest problem is with the checks, accepting checks via mail for website products. The hurdles there are, one,
you gotta wait to receive the money before they send it.
Right. Unless you're dealing with a service that has some kind of free trial, you don't get the service until you've paid for it. So you send them the check and you wait those couple of days for it to get mailed. And during a COVID world, it might be a week or a month, right?
COVID has messed up the mail.
Yeah, it's been pretty bad. So you got to wait for the check to get there, and then they process it and put that check on your account manually. So it's a little bit slower. It's a lot slower, lot slower than taking credit card payments online. But there's no fees, and it's pretty secure. But then you got to store the checks. Right. So we had to store every check that we scan for 3 months, I think. And so we have a whole process of we scan our checks, we put them in a binder, and we store them in the lockbox. Right. So now that check's in a lockbox.
Secure, so be compliant.
Right. And then every single day we add the new binder to it. And then on the last day of the month, or the first day of every month, we take the 4-month-old checks out of that binder. And we take them downstairs and we have them all shredded, and then we start a new stack. So it is a significant amount of work, but for Hosterian, it's 50% of all of our customers because we're primarily a B2B, and B2B, old school B2B accountants do not like
anything
online payments.
Yeah.
Right. They're like, I want paper everything. So
that's what they know. That's what they're familiar with.
So it's a challenge. Our accountant, Bob, he's getting better with it.
He's old school as hell.
He is really, really old school, man. But he's been with us for 15 years, and he knows all the ins and outs of all of our different little businesses and how to account for them. So we keep him around. We'll keep him probably until he decides he doesn't want to work with us anymore. So, yeah.
So, Catherine, those are your options. If you have any questions about that, feel free to reach back out to us, and maybe we can come up with some other way, right? We've got to dig deeper into it. It's what it really comes down to.
Yeah, figure out what your goals are and what it's product specific too, right? I mean,
industry, product, like your team.
Yeah. I mean, I think I can literally right now go to Carvana and buy a car with my credit card online, and it would be delivered in a couple days, right?
That's so crazy to think about that, man. Like,
yeah. I think that's the extreme case, right? That's the extreme case, but it's out there.
I mean, but that's why this topic is like a real topic, because the world is changing.
Absolutely.
Right? Like we were talking about this the other day, how like we were raised that you don't get inside a stranger's car.
Right.
You don't give people your address online.
Nope.
You don't give them money online. But we all have taken an Uber.
Yeah, it's changed. Everything's changed.
That's exactly
all out the window. Everything you knew before, throw it out the window.
Right.
And we're in a brand new world. And I think if it hasn't happened to your industry yet, it's going to happen. I don't even know what industry hasn't been disrupted yet, right? Other than the industries that helped found the internet, right?
Yeah.
So hosting hasn't been disrupted yet but it's been so commoditized that
it's normal now.
It's just so competitive, right? So getting into that industry today would be it's an uphill battle being in the industry for 20 years, right? It's a constant, always reinventing and putting new stuff out, constant chug. But the hotel industry's been turned on its head. The taxi cab, all the travel agents. I don't even know. I never understood 20 years ago why you needed a travel agent, right? I can go to AA.com or Southwest.com and book my flights. I can go to the website of the hotel and call them and book my hotel stay.
I think people use travel agents. I know, like when we used ours, we look for like expertise on what's going on in that area.
Okay.
Right. So like I can book a flight.
I've never used a travel agent.
I didn't start using them until I got married.
Okay.
My wife uses them.
Yeah. I've never used a travel agent, and I would say life is better today when I travel. When I was younger, I would just get on the plane and fly wherever and figure it out when I got there, right? With a backpack. I didn't really care.
I would totally travel like that.
Yeah. That led to like, a lot of sleeping on buses and sleeping in train stops or bus stops, right? I'm a little too old for that today. That'd be fine. It'd be fun. But I have a phone now, so I can just find stuff so easy, right?
Everything's on your phone now, man.
Yeah,
you don't really need much.
I remember being like 24 years old, walking the streets of downtown DC, Chinatown, looking for a place to stay. And, I only had $40 in my pocket, so I needed to make sure I had a $34 place to stay so I could at least get breakfast in the morning. But, it is what it is.
But you can do that now with a phone.
Right. Today I can just hop on.
All of that fear.
Yeah,
man.
I can look for hotels. I can see their prices, right?
Right.
It'd be fantastic being a nomad with the phone today.
Oh my God.
As a 20-year-old kid.
Game changer.
Yeah, it'd be so much fun.
So, I hope that answered your question there. Which one was this one? That's with Catherine. Okay. Moving on to our next question here. This is, what is the best way to take a payment online for services when someone books an appointment? Can you recommend a website that makes it simple and reliable? So
we've already touched on this a little bit. Yeah. I think Start Booking and Calendarly are the best two. We do have an affiliation with Start Booking. Yes. So if you go to Host Journey, you buy Start Booking through us, we do get paid a little bit. It's not much. Promise you. It's not much. But if you need help setting it up and you buy it through us, we help you set it up, right? And that's our stipends back from there. But we don't have any affiliate with Calendarly, and I still highly recommend them, and I use them quite a bit. And the differences between the two are so minute. Mm-hmm. But so I use Start Booking to book personal training classes for Tidal.
What do you like about each one?
So if I had classes, like steady classes all at a regular basis, Start Booking hands down is the better option because it's got a better calendar, or in my opinion, right? My opinion's I like it, but you don't have to.
Well, it's our show, so we can
right.
talk
I
about
just like
our
it better
opinions.
for those things. My wife is trained on it, and she runs that business, so it just works very well. The clients like it; it's very easy.
I like how you can see how many spots are available.
How many? Yes.
That's
So
really,
for
that's a good
classrooms,
touch.
it's great. Um, and the text messaging is, I think it's free in there, or you get so many text message reminders.
That's really cool, right there.
With your I think it's $35 package, and you get so many text message reminders. I'm not 100% positive on that. And then you hop over to Calendarly for stuff like booking interviews or booking one-off meetings and things like that.
Which is my life, right?
Yes.
All of my appointments are through Calendly, and I love it because it integrates in everything. Integrates with my Zoom, integrates with my Google, it integrates
with PayPal and Stripe.
PayPal,
so
all the payments. I mean, I can literally do everything with, and just like you said earlier, as soon as I make that appointment, I have it everywhere I need to be.
Right.
So there's no way I'm going to miss that appointment as soon as it's in my calendar.
So, like, if you're an attorney and you were booking, so you say, I hate how attorneys charge their rates, but I guess they went to school and they deserve it. But like this would be absurd, like a $499 for your first hour consulting, right? If you're an attorney, you could take Calendarly, pop that in there, and when somebody booked that specific kind of appointment, that you've already got the money in the bank. You don't even have to think about it, right? So they have their 1 hour Zoom meeting, and you move forward like that.
Which is the other thing I like about Calendarly. You can set up different types of meetings.
Yes.
So depending on what that product that you're
I think you can do that in Start Booking too, but I'm not 100% positive.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But I really like that because I can tell, like, say if you have a marketing plan and trying to figure out where a lead came from. With Calendly, that's super easy because you can just set up an event just with that and share it just in that one spot, so you know exactly where it came from. And if you want to also tailor down to what the conversation is going to be about, so you can prepare for it, you can also do that really easily by setting up different meetings. So there's a lot of features like that I really like about Calendly myself. I don't have too much experience with Start Booking besides putting on people's websites.
Right, just copy the code over, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I like both of them for different reasons. They both are great for booking appointments. Pro tip on Start Booking: if you have a recurring job, so say you're a WordPress helper and you do a $45 a month WordPress Zoom call, right? Just making that up off the top of my head, and you do that regularly, and he's like, I'm going to do this forever. Don't set the calendar out too long. I did that, and it's something I've done in programming for a long time. I set to $20.99 or $29.99 is when this recurring event. And I talked to the programmers that Start Booking about this. Oh. They didn't program it. They load all the classes and then display them. So if you put it out 100 or 200 years, they try to load all 200 years of classes into before they display it, and it just crashes the website. So don't do that. I did it, and it took us working with Start Booking about a week and a half to figure out what was crashing their servers.
It's actually a pretty easy fix, right?
Well, just don't do that. I didn't know, and I'm like, we're gonna have these classes. We're going to have this schedule until we're out of business. So
right.
I don't want to go in every 6 months and change the dates. We got down to 2 years, and it worked. It's still pretty snappy, and it doesn't put too much burden on their servers. But so push it out. 2 years is about as far out as you can go out on a recurring class or schedule or meeting or something like that without just crashing a bunch of stuff. They said they're working on a fix for it long term. I don't know when that's going to come out. But just a little tip.
It's not that big. Just make it for 2 years versus forever.
Yeah, but then you got to go in every 2 years and change that. And it really sucks in the second year. You forgot about it. And now you don't have your classes being displayed. Right.
And that's why technology is so awesome. Because you can just set a reminder.
You can, but Calendarly doesn't have that problem. Right. I have calendars in Calendarly that I have set out to the year 3000. Right. Hopefully medical technology gets me there. I doubt
it. If you're going to be Mr. Tony Stark, man, you can do a lot of stuff.
I think they can just put my brain into the computer and you can still book meetings with me.
Oh my God, that's awesome. So, love it. Clinton, if you have any more questions about that, let us know. We're more than willing to dive deeper if need be. Okay. Moving on to the next question here is by Steve. How can I receive payments without a website?
Checks. Without a website, paper form, you can, right?
I think they mean online payments.
Online payments?
That's what I believe
right.
what Steve was trying to say.
So you need some way to capture the payment, but if you don't have a website, you could create a buy now button on PayPal and send them that in an email. Send them the buy now button in an email. You could create a paper form. Paper form is fantastic on when you make your form, you get the embed link, you can put it in there, or you can just send them like it's like an encrypted URL, but it's like, and then it's paperform.co at the end of it. So you can just send them that link, right? Mm-hmm. And I believe PayPal has several different options for request money, right? Send a person a request for funds.
Yes.
For that, I think QuickBooks does too. So if you use QuickBooks as your accounting software, yeah, absolutely. So if you use QuickBooks as your accounting software, you send the client the invoice and via email, and it pops up, and there's a Pay Now button, and they can pay through QuickBooks, and that will go into your checking account too.
Absolutely.
So you don't have to have a website to collect payments. I think if you're doing business in 2020, that you should have a website. It's part of your company's brand, personal brand, all those things. So I think you should have a website, but you don't have to have a website to collect payments.
Right.
I don't think I would do business with somebody that didn't have a website and they sent me a link from their Gmail account.
I guess it would be
for pay. I actually do. I have a landlord that does that. I have a landlord that does not have a website that sends me an email with QuickBooks, and I pay it online, and that whole process. But
I've used the PayPal, like when I was doing my coaching services. I had a website, but you didn't pay on the website. I did the invoice because each one was set up like that.
Yeah.
But to your point though, depending on the product I was buying, I would be willing to buy and give money without having a website. It just depends on what I was buying.
Right. So I pay my landlord's rent at one of the businesses that I own. I pay him the rent, but I know who he is. Right. We have some kind of relationship.
Right.
I wouldn't do that for some kind of product or service, just that I came across in normal searching.
I mean, if I was buying something, I wouldn't be opposed to buying using something like that. If I was buying something online, like if I was buying something with a like a Facebook Marketplace, I would absolutely spend that kind of money. But that's not a business,
right? But you've talked to the person, right?
Right.
Other ways then would be Etsy and PayPal, or Etsy and eBay would be great ways to, if you're selling a product, right? If eBay for anything and Etsy for something theoretically that you've made. I see other stuff on Etsy though quite a bit, like garage sale items and things, but it is what it is.
Right. It's a place to sell, so things get sold.
Yes. Another way is I sold a drone on Marketplace last week, and he paid me with Cash App. Right, so that's a great way to do payments for individuals, right?
Venmo, Cash App, all those different like places where you can send money back and forth. I mean,
right. So Brian and I go to fights a lot in town, right?
There's exactly how we pay.
Yeah, there's a couple different fight clubs in town. Nemesis and Shamrock are two MMA things, and we go to those quite a bit whenever they're happening, and to support our friends and family members that are in the ring.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times, the fighter will get a stack of tickets and they have to sell them, and that's how the fighters unfortunately get paid. Or at least it's how they keep getting booked for the fights, right? It's the person, if you sell a bunch of tickets, you keep getting booked.
Such a weird thing.
Unfortunately, politics and fighting are going to stay together for a long time.
Politics everywhere going to stay together.
So, so a lot of times we'll Cash App that fighter the money for the tickets.
I mean, I've used Cash App and Venmo, man. Actually, quite a bit. I mean, there's a few people that we have payment plan. That's how I pay them.
Okay. Yeah.
I pay them through there. Splitting meals with people. That's how I send money. Super easy.
Yep.
Right. So you have some options here. Was this Clinton? Steve. Steve, you have a few options. But I would absolutely lean towards getting a website. I mean, you can get a website for pretty cheap
Yeah.
nowadays. If you have a question with that, we can take care of you as well.
Let us know.
But at the end of the day, like you want to, just like the kid's point, you want to make sure that if you are doing business, you want to make sure you are branding yourself properly, and you want to put out the reputation that you want to have. And to have a good reputation, you have to do kind of like good things, right?
Right.
And part of that is having a website, having an online presence. I need to be able to research you and find information about you, so I know if I want to do business with you in the first place, right? So reviews, testimonials, all that's a part of your branding.
Right. We just did. You have to have a website even to do a Google My Business profile, right?
You don't have to.
You don't have to. Okay.
You can skip that question. It's an optional thing on there.
Okay.
But again, if I'm looking up a business on Google and they don't have a website, I'm now getting like nervous about it. Not nervous,
Right.
but I would say I'm not. My expectation now is going down, and if
Yes.
that goes down too far, I'm out. Right. And as a business owner, why would you want to create opportunities where people say no? You want to create more opportunities where people
Today,
it's easy.
there's no reason not to have a website. Zero reason not to have one. Right. If you the cost.
I guess I'm trying to be a little too nice about
Yeah,
it.
before I would say it was anywhere between it was so subjective, $500 to $30,000 to build a decent looking website. If you paid $500, you probably got shit. If you paid $30,000, it probably didn't work. It looked beautiful.
Right.
And then everything in between there. And today the tools and the integration points with all these different vendors, we build websites for people for as little as $50 a month, like literally cradle to grave. Set it all up, do the booking platform for you. You got to buy your own booking software, and you got to buy, and we have recommendations for that,
Right.
and all of those things. But we do all, and then maintain it forever. So it's so affordable. And if you don't want to do that, hosting is so cheap, $5-10 a month, and the tools like WordPress and Elementor are the learning curves aren't that big, right? And with YouTube and Google, you can figure it out pretty quickly. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's really you're right. There's no excuse not to do it.
Yeah.
You're really you're doing yourself a disservice.
So the question is, how do I take payments without a website? We gave you a whole bunch of options, but at the end of the day, get a damn website.
Tighten up. Yeah. Tighten up.
Get to work.
And make it count. Yeah. All right. So moving along here, we have Chloe here. And what is the fastest payment gateway?
It's so subjective at this point. So First Data is a payment gateway that we use, and it's fast for the end user, but it takes about 3 to 5 days, depending on if it's a weekend or not, for us to get the money. Authorize.net, it's the next day. Bam, easy. Square, you get the money the next day. So the act of processing the credit card, like from when they hit submit to the time that it's to the processor, we're talking milliseconds. Mm-hmm. So speed is it's not even a factor. If one of them's, if something's even 100 milliseconds faster than the other thing,
you don't notice that at all, man.
The human eye doesn't notice that. So then it comes down to, how are you getting the money? Where, so authorize.net is really, really fast. Square is really fast. eBay or PayPal and Stripe are really fast as well, but it's in the Stripe account or in the PayPal account.
You have to get it transferred over.
And then transferring the funds to your bank account takes a day or two, sometimes 3. You can pay more and get it done faster. Just such a scam. I think, but that's what they do. That's how they make their money. So, I can't judge them for that. If I was looking for the fastest payment gateway for me to get the money into my bank account, I think it's authorize.net, right? And if you set that up wrong, then it can take longer. So we know at Hosterian, we know that we process 80% of all our credit cards are processed before 11 a.m., right? So we run our batch at 1 p.m. every day. So we know that we have the funds the next day. Oh. If you didn't do that until
5 p.m.,
I think probably 10 p.m. now, because I think banks technically are staying open till 9, like on the back office now.
Oh, okay.
So if you did it like 10 or 11 p.m.,
bank, really?
Yeah, it might take an extra day to get the funds. So you play with your settlement times a little bit, depending on how cash sensitive your business is. If it's like any of my businesses, it's wildly cash sensitive. So you want that cash as soon as you possibly can. You've got payroll and rent and mortgages and everything else to cover.
Yeah.
And you're trying to grow, so you want that cash in your pocket as fast as possible. But you can pay a lot of bills with PayPal. So if you're using PayPal, I would argue that it's even faster, right? Because the minute that the client pays, you have your funds
in your account,
and you can use them with your PayPal credit card or your PayPal account instantly.
And that's a game changer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, they didn't have that at first, So I mean, having that option there, that can make that instant usage for you, right? So we're right here. We're approaching our 6 o'clock time. We have one more question left.
Okay.
This is by Jack, and then we're going to wrap up today. Interesting question at that. This is what is the difference between a payment gateway, a payment processor, and a merchant account?
So a payment processor, I'll use my definitions because I don't know where he got those terms from, and I'm just going to give my best swing at them. But
it sounds like he's trying to understand how to get his online banking set up.
Right. So to me, a payment processor would be how you're accepting the payments. That could be a person, or it could be an application like Paperform, or a web form, or whatever front interface you have that collects the data and sends it to the gateway. The gateway is an intermediator. It does things like, typically does fraud checking and scrubs the data, make sure the address matches, make sure all those things. And they talk to a company called Vital generally. And so it's this big secret company behind all the scenes, right? It's Oz. And so that's the gateway so your front end application talks to the gateway, and then the gateway sends it to the merchant account. The merchant account then takes that money and says, hey, Visa, you owe me this from Johnny. Hey, MasterCard, you owe me this from Timmy. Hey, Discover, you owe me this from Susan. And they take all that money and they batch it up and then they deposit it into your account.
Got it.
Is that fairly clear?
I think it was.
Okay.
I think it was.
So the one that I'm really hung up on is processor, the payment processor, because I really don't know what he's going at there.
That was the only part I was going to ask about.
Yeah. So I'm assuming that is the payment processor.
That's like the actual.
Dustin is our check payment processor.
Right? So that could be a person.
It could be a person, right, running those things. And so I'm assuming that's what they mean on the credit card side. And that I think that's the person that's collecting the information and saying, okay, I've got your information. I'm going to release the services to you.
Right.
Or actually, I've got your information. I'm going to send it to the gateway. The gateway is going to say, yes, this is a real card or not. But I'm going to release the product to you. Right. I think that's the processor, what he's talking about. Okay. Typically that for us, right now, if we're making a site for anybody under 10 products, it's probably going to be Paperform. So the processor would be Paperform. Right.
That makes sense, Jack.
Yeah. And as soon as the gateway says, hey, yes, this is a valid credit card, then we're going to release that product. But that process takes so fast. It's less than a second, right? It's so quick. So
one of the things I like about Paperform too is that you get a notification when that even happens.
Yes.
Right. So like if your processor is a person, obviously you can go talk to Dustin. Right. But if you're using some kind of third party, like if we were doing it for you, it would have been through Paperform, you would get a notification right away that another sale came through and then everything went through. Right. So not only you got the sale, all the payment and all the part, what's the word I'm looking for? The actual items are all now completed. Now it's time for you to do your shipping.
Right. And if you're using, just shameless plug, if you're using Hosterian's done for you web hosting and you have products, we have a commercial license for Paperform. You don't pay anything extra for that process, for that awesome piece, right? Which is a huge value.
And that's pretty awesome.
In my mind, it is a huge value. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And it is a shameless plug for Hosterian. But I think it's an important piece that if you're looking for how to build a website and you want to take payments on there, that's huge.
Hell yeah, that's huge. I mean, anywhere you can save some money when you're trying to get money, I think is a pretty important thing. Yep. You're trying to make money, but spend less to get it.
Fantastic. Well, I had a great time today. If you like the content that we're putting out, we created any kind of value, hit the subscribe button below. It's a little logo right here on YouTube. If you are watching us on Spotify or listening to us on Spotify, or Apple or anywhere else, we're now across the board on, I think, eight
platforms,
8 different platforms for our podcast on audio, plus YouTube, and we do the Facebook Live. Let's not forget about those folks. And then after all that's done, I also post it up on our Instagram. So I've had a great time. If you have any questions for me, or if you just want daily text messages from me, 314-370-2871. I'll send you goofy stuff, motivational stuff, tips and tricks, all kinds of goofy stuff. If you just text that phone number. Can't call me, though. Text message only.
Email.
Oh, my email address. I always forget that. I think the email is probably dying. Ken.cox, KEN.COX at Hosterian, HOSTIRIAN.com.
There you go. All right. And then the contact myself, Brian, at, the text line is 314-216-2040. Pop that up here on the screen for me. And then to email me, it'd be Brian, BRIAN.Montgomery, MONTGOMERY at Hosterian, HOSTIRIAN.com. All right. Yes. So if you guys have any questions, or if you are interested in another topic that you would like to have us cover, let us know that on any one of those channels. If you'd like to appear as a guest on our show, absolutely let us know. We love doing this. This is fun for us. And we want to make sure that we're giving value to people. So give us your feedback, guys. Give us your feedback.
Fantastic.
Until then, make it count.
Get to work.
See y'all next time.
Fade to black.
Fade to black.